And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the semifinals of the Korean StarCraft League, week number 51. We just wrapped up with the quarterfinals matches, and we had some insane results, some insane upsets. If you're a Zerg fan in the chat, I apologize as we have run out of Zergs. It's nothing but Protoss and Terran here tonight. And what is interesting is that it is not some of the Protoss and Terrans that we're used to. The reason for this is a lot of players are traveling. Players like Bjorn, for example. Bjorn, I mean, we've seen a lot of pictures on social media. He is currently in Canada. He's staying at the Shopify HQ. So Bjorn is usually one of the regulars here in this event. Players like Cure, players like Hero as well did not necessarily take part. I'm sure a lot of them getting ready here for the upcoming DreamHack Dallas that's on the horizon. So we do have some others instead, of course. Not saying that there weren't any heavy hitters. I mean, Solar and Dark are the two best Zerg players in Korea. They still went down nonetheless. We have instead Oliveira versus NightMare up first, followed by Creator versus Gumiho thereafter. Let's go. As we dive into game one, it's going to be on Crimson Court. Vámonos, man. Vámonos. Crimson Court is coming up next. For those who weren't here at the start of the broadcast, we casted Oliveira have a wild series versus Classic. Oliveira brought Classic down 2-1. It was an insane result. It was a very chaotic series. We saw some one-base all-ins. We saw some like 3-minute games. But we were able to sink our teeth into a longer macro game as well. And here we go. We're diving into our first semis, and spawning in the top right-hand corner of Crimson Court, we have our red Protoss player from land of South Korea. Representing Bleed Esports, it is NightMare. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Chinese Terran player. He just took down Classic 2-1. Representing CranKy Z Gaming, it is Oliveira. Here we go. For those who maybe weren't around for it, I recommend watching the VODs, but Oliveira did end up going for a one-base all-in on Ghost River, and he was able to catch Classic completely off guard. Classic, unfortunately, had gone for a Stargate opener. Oh, looks like we're just confirming that this is, yep, the first game. But did confirm it was a Stargate opener, and it was Phoenix first against a one-base all-in, which was brutal. On top of that, we were unable to scatter ahead of time, and Oliveira snowballed out of control. And they also had a more back-and-forth macro game on Alkyone, which did lead into kind of 4-base versus 4-base, and was a lot more back-and-forth, but did also go Oliveira's way. So I'm excited to see how Oliveira does approach NightMare, as NightMare has some killer PvT. Even though we just saw NightMare bring down Dark, historically, NightMare's PvZ has been his weakest matchup. Straight up, like his Protoss versus Zerg pales in comparison to his PvP and PvT, so I kind of like NightMare coming into this. Like, Oliveira is hot off taking down Classic, but at the same time, NightMare has been impressing us as well. It's been very impressive. NightMare, as of late, has been just dominating Cure and Bjorn in PvTs. So, again, his PvT is nothing to really scoff at. But now, just going for Gate Expand, or Gate Cyber Expand. Back at home, he does end up recalling that probe, does get it back, and Oliveira is going for a double gas opener, which is scouted. Double gas opener leads into a faster factory. You can see the Reaper looking for the probe, but it hasn't made it back home. Now, even though Oliveira has gone for a one-base all-in already here tonight, I don't expect to see that unless we're on a smaller map like Ghost River, or maybe Post. Oh, no, Post Youth not really. On a map like Ghost River, for example, is where I would expect that. Not here, as Oliveira does expand. Does take his natural. Behind this, NightMare is going for a Stargate opener in his main. Reaper's goal is to get eyes on that, to get a read on whether it's a Stargate, a Robo, or a Twilight Council. Oliveira trying to find out, is zoned away from the main. So far, NightMare is keeping up. Doesn't keep up. And we are settling into our 1-1-1. Okay, so Oliveira, he's not going for any kind of committed bio-heavy composition. He's not going for too heavy of 2-base aggression either. Just working towards his drop play. Was the Reaper still unable to find a way into the main? Is zoned back and is shut down. Very nice movement there from NightMare. Does keep up and shuts down the first Reaper. Looking at Oliveira, he wasn't able to confirm much of anything, so he's still in the dark as to what NightMare is working with. We can see it's going to be a Stargate into Phoenix opener. from our Protoss. Massing up Phoenixes. Widow Mines are in position. We have our first Widow Mine here outside at the third base. Meanwhile, we're getting into our medevac to go for some drop play. And we'll see if NightMare can come across it. Interesting, as NightMare, he's going for not a Robo, not a Bay. He's going for a Twilight Council. Okay. It's looking like Phoenix Charge Lot. Something we don't see too often anymore. Drop is moving out. Phoenix is spotted by that Widow Mine. We try to catch it. Instead, we come across the Adepts instead. Medevac is forced back. It's going to be shut down by the Phoenixes. We do unload in time. We just save the Medevac. And a very tense moment here as Oliveira is forced all the way back home. Mine Shot is going to be going off on those Adepts. Oh, not quite. NightMare does react in time, does pull away. So we dive into the main base. We're going to be reactoring out Vikings, actually. And we're rushing into early tank production. And despite seeing the Phoenixes, Oliveira, he's going to be committing. He's building up towards a tank push. A very, very heavy tank push here. With tanks, Vikings, we could go into a Liberator behind this after the initial wave of Vikings. We're moving out. Now the army is spotted. Can NightMare hold on? Back at him, what do we have? We have a shield battery. We have a second shield battery. Now we got a third shield battery on the way. He realized how committed this is. We need more. Again, because there's no robot, there's no immortal. Without an immortal, I'm not sure if we can hold on. It's going to be close. Phoenixes, they try to pick up some reinforcements. They came to the production. Tank is within range. Back at home. One of the Vikings is going to be going down, and upon seeing the shield, we're going for the tank as well. Boys are going to be pulled. Boys should repair. We keep the tank alive, and Oliveira, he races back home. Upon seeing the defensive setup here, he doesn't believe he can break it. And will pull back. The Phoenixes will get away. NightMare only loses one Adept throughout all of that, and he survives. Oh, spoke too soon. Lose a probe as well. But NightMare does survive. Oliveira, he races back home, working towards the third base. Now, even though Oliveira committed quite heavily there, what I will say is that at least Oliveira keeps his tanks alive. Most of the tanks and most of the Vikings did survive that, and that means we're going to be able to hit a stronger timing with Stim, with a 3-base setup, later on down the line. At least we did preserve our units. These Vikings are a little bit less useful just because NightMare is not going Colossus. He's going Charge, so yeah, these Vikings, they're, I wouldn't say dead supply, but they're going to help as much as they otherwise would. Pieces they dip in, they catch a Widow Mine. Do we have a bunker on the low ground? We do not. NightMare is going to try and break this. Oh my god, he's crazy. Into 3 tanks at a pre-siege, that is not going to happen. NightMare, he face checks, he backs the hell off. Leaves out a couple of gateway units, and we're going for a third. We're calming things down. We're macroing up. Third base on the way for NightMare. Third base on the way for Oliveira. We have Charge and Storm on the side of our Protoss player. And we'll see how the game settles from here. Honestly, I do like Oliveira's position a lot more, just because of how late this third is. Typically, we would want the third base to be a lot faster from the side of the Protoss to keep up with the muling of the Terran. But the third base is finishing up at around the same time. Sure, Oliveira, he hasn't landed his own location yet, but I'm sure soon will. And there it is. It's being taken. So Oliveira is keeping up economically with his opponent. Tanks are in position as well on the high ground. Working towards a bio tank. Stim combat shields. Drilling claws on the way as well. And NightMare is building up his own army behind this. Still no secure splash damage. We have Storm, yes, but we have not worked towards robot production, towards Colossus or Disruptors. I'm sure if the game goes on longer, we will. For now, we're heavily reliant on these Storms. If Oliveira were to move out. We can see that he's not. He's focusing on his upgrade timing instead. NightMare once again moving out. What is our defensive setup here? We've got a solid line of tanks. We have Widow Mines. The Observer does have eyes on all of this. Does have eyes on the tanks now. NightMare, he does see. He knows. And we're going in with those storms. He wants the Marines. Oh, massive storms here on the Marines, and every single Marine goes down. The tanks are lifted, and NightMare, he's breaking this position. Goes for a massive warp in into the natural. GG gets called a very decisive move here, and NightMare takes game number 1. Oh my god. That was crazy. GG. Things escalated very quickly there. I mean, Oliveira, he was hoping to go for a longer game. He was pretty decently set up, but again, because of that observer, like NightMare, he came in with a plan. He knew exactly what he wanted there. He went for the storms on the bio. He picked up all the tanks. He was able to warp in behind it as well, or even in the face of Oliveira. Very quick, very decisive. GG. And with that, NightMare takes the lead. Damn. GG, well played. Now we're diving into game number 2. It's going to be on Oceanborn. Okay. But that was scary. Not gonna lie. But here we go. We're diving into our next game, and spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have our South Korean Protoss player, the Red Protoss, representing Bleed Esports, leading the series 1-0. It is NightMare. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the Blue Terran player representing CranKy Gaming. Ooh. Down in the series, looking to bounce back, it is Oliveira. Here we go. Again, you could definitely argue that Oliveira, he was in a less than ideal position just because his initial tank timing didn't do much. On top of that, a lot of his defense as well would have been heavily reliant on his Viking positioning, which is also why the Observer was so important. If the Vikings were able to get, or sorry, I should say, if Oliveira was able to scout the army ahead of time, if the Vikings were able to zone away the War Prism specifically and zone away the Phoenixes, then it's a different game, right? Then suddenly Oliveira can hold, then suddenly the storms aren't as perfect and the lifts aren't as ideal. A lot of it did come down to the fact that NightMare had vision, Oliveira did not. Oliveira, he was not able to prepare himself for said attack, and now we're settling into game 2. We'll see how NightMare does approach this. This time, Oliveira going for a single gas opener. Okay, so Oliveira is going for a Rax into expansion, going for a more economic build. SV comes down, and it's on NightMare to be as annoying as possible and delay the expansion if he can. He won't be able to. It does confirm it, but the CC is on the way. So Oliveira going to be switching gears here in game number 2. Having a much more cool, calm, and collected early game. He's going to be focusing on his economy. Meanwhile, NightMare opening up Gate Cyber Expand. If you remember last game, it was a Stargate Phoenix opener. Here on Oceanborn, we'll see if we embrace the Twilight Council and Blink Stalkers instead. I'm hoping for that at least. Suplex Proton, yes. All of the above. And there it is, Twilight Council is our take of choice. Reaper doesn't dip into the main yet. Ooh, is going to be zoned away. And we've seen that NightMare has done a great job at this so far, even in game 1. Was able to deny any kind of scouting that Oliveira had. The Reaper is forced all the way back. Interesting follow-up. Okay, so it was an economic opener, true, with a faster command center, but behind this we're going for a Rax, and I imagine a third Rax as well. This looks to be a 3-1-1 setup here with a delayed starport. If that's the case, yep, there it is, there's a third Rax. This is a very aggressive build. Again, we're delaying starport production in favor of a stim timing. We're going to be rushing on into our tech labs, into our reactors, into stim, into a bio army. And this can hit quite hard. So far, we haven't scattered much. We saw the factory, but not much else. This bio army is going to be amassing. There are variants of this where you skip the starport and you pull the boys. You just go all in. You know, if we were casting Hon Mono, if we were casting maybe Bjorn, then I'd be leaning towards that. Oliveira, I'm not so sure. Not so sure if he would embrace a more all-in variation of this build. As you can see, we're just rushing into our first tank as well. Adept's going to be scouted. We get in. Oh, this is big. Adept does get into the main base. We see everything in the main. We confirm the racks. We confirm the tech lab on the factory and the lack of starport. Okay, so he's going to be taking a lot of damage. We do get one. Oh, we get the mule. And a worker as well. This Adept, we even shade out. Should be chased down. But very nice scouting there. You can see NightMare immediately shield battery. Shield battery's on the way. Immortal production has commenced. We're playing it safe. If NightMare wanted to be greedy, we can skip the Immortal, go for a Bay, rush into Colossus, but NightMare is making sure he has an arm here as early as possible, as quickly as possible. Stalker's also in position to try to slow down the army here at the ramp. And here comes that starport from Oliveira. So it is not going to be a 2-base all-in variation. Starport is on the way. NightMare is working towards charge. Still no third. That is interesting to me. We should have an expansion here. But NightMare throws down 3 more gates. Okay, speaking of 2-base all-ins, this is very committed here from our Protoss. I mean, our pylon, that tells us that NightMare maybe is thinking of expanding, but say late third. It is going to be a very late third base from NightMare, just doubling down, working towards the Templar Archives as well as the third base goes down, working towards charge. So you can read this one of 2 ways. Either NightMare is being hyper aggressive and trying to pivot away from that, or being hyper defensive, right? With all these extra gateways, if a push did arrive, we would have quite an army to deal with it. Still no third CC from Oliveira. Drop is moving out. It is not spotted. NightMare doesn't have an observer on the map. Interesting. So, no vision. Double drop is moving out. Storm is on the way. Depth threatens a shade and should recognize that we are missing some Marines. And we're coming in from behind. Let's go. I'll go here to force out the blink and to surround the army. There's the blink! And we catch every single Stalker. We force the recall. But every Stalker goes down. And now we're pushing. Now we're committed. What do we have at home to defend? We have Chargeless. We have an Immortal. We have Storm that is not quite done. It's being chroned as we speak. We need that Storm. Oliveira scanning the third base. Spots all the Chargelots. Double jump on the right-hand side. Waiting for reinforcements. And it looks like Storm is going to finish. We have 3 High Templar here on the left-hand side. Ready to flank. But the drop comes in. And NightMare not quite in position. Mine's just going to be going up. And here comes the main army towards the third. And drop continues to lift. Heads into the main base. There are no blink stalkers to shut down the drop. And the third is being broken. NightMare is being pulled apart. And it's just being pulled left and right. There's only 1 tank behind this. Good Storm. With Storm on the buyer. 14 probes going to be going down. The drop in the main! It was not cleaned up! The drop was not dealt with. We meet up with the first drop with the second. We get 27 worker kills, and we go for the High Templar. There's 1 Storm. The Prism goes down. The High Templar as well. And Oliveira is snowballing out of control. Again, NightMare, he spotted the main army, but just wasn't able to keep up. Not with the drop play. Not with the multi-prong aggression. 35 workers go down. We get a medevac, but the rest of the army does escape. Back at home, third CC finishing up. GG gets called as there's just too much to come back from, and Oliveira ties up the series 1-1. We're going to the ace match. Let's go. GG. Again, it all popped off there. I mean, it was a beautiful move from Oliveira to come in from behind to catch out all those Stalkers. Because all the Stalkers went down, that was most of the anti-air that NightMare had. That's why the drops got out of hand. That's why we couldn't keep up and we couldn't shut down those medevacs for so long, because there were barely any Stalkers. There were like 2 Stalkers left over. We had Storm, sure, but yeah, we just weren't able to keep up. GG, well played. We're going to game 3. Going to that third game. And this has been a pretty intense series. Like, it's been very aggressive. Our players have been trying to work towards 3-base setups, but if you remember in game 1, it was Oliveira who got caught with his pants down. Here in game 2, the roles were reversed and it was NightMare being caught out. The games have been very decisive, I should say. Now we're getting into game 3 and spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Alkyone, we have our South Korean Protoss player, the Red Protoss representing Bleed Esports, being forced into the ace match. Can he bring it back? It is NightMare. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Chinese Terran player, the blue Terran, representing CranKy Gaming, tying up the series 1-1, forcing the ace match. Can he keep up that momentum? It is Oliveira. Let's go. Ready. I'm excited. Again, we're loading into one of the more macro-oriented maps in the map pool. Alkyone, this was the map where we saw a longer back and forth between Oliveira and Classic, where Classic built up towards a very hefty robo-based army with Colossus, with Disruptors, and he got surrounded right here. In this position, Oliveira, he was able to come in from the north, from the south, and completely surround and collapse the army. He was able to win it from there. We'll see how NightMare does differ from Classic. So now it's going to be another double gas opener. Similar build to game 1 from Oliveira. As we're going for a faster factory, we're going for a delayed economy or delayed TC. Oh, the SCV takes a lot of hits. It's going to have to get the hell out of there. And we do fully wall off. Okay, so NightMare's in the dark. NightMare didn't see the gases, and for all he knows, there could be a CC on the way on the high ground. Oh god! As we get an SCV kill, oh no! That should not have happened! Smooch! Feels bad, man. As NightMare, yeah. Oliveira's like, what can I do, Poppy? Like, I'm trying to help. I'm pretty sure Oliveira was trying to force the RNG on the SCV. It just refused to go over. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. So a very nice start here from NightMare. Gets the SCV kill. That should not have happened. Some RNG was unfortunately not working well there for Oliveira. But at least NightMare didn't scout the main. So again, as I was getting into, he's not aware if there's a CC behind this or a factory, how many gases. We can see factory's about to finish. Oh, going for fast Widow Mine production, not Hellions. Okay. You have my attention. This could be the beginnings of a mine drop based opener. So yeah, Starport's on the way. Reaper does escape. As Oliveira's getting ready with his Widow Mines, we have a Stargate for NightMare. Stargate has been thrown down here at the natural. Not the first time we've seen this from our Protoss. I imagine for a Phoenix based opener, but we could see Oracles instead if we wanted to be more aggressive. Reaper dips in, no scouting, no tech here in the main. This is the advantage of hiding your tech at the natural instead. It is more exposed, especially against a 2-base push with the low ground, but it is hidden from the Reaper. Here comes that medevac. How many Widow Mines? Only one. Okay, it's only the one Widow Mine getting to a Cyclone into a Marine drop thereafter. I see the Bible thumb in the chat. Ah. As Oliveira is soon going to be moving out, medevac has arrived. We can, of course, reinforce the army with the Cyclone on the ground, as the Marines and Widow Mine are moving out from the air. Now, what's important here is that, the Adept does shade across and does get eyes on the drop. NightMare does spot this, and he's going to be able to threaten the mineral line. What is there at home to defend? Uh-oh. One Marine. There's one Marine back at home. Boys are being pulled. This one Adept is getting quite a bit done. And across the map, here comes that drop, which was spotted. Oh! Can we get the medevac? Get a couple of hits in. Cyclone does get a lock on. Adept goes down. And we're threatening that pylon. Threatening the production. Widow Mine not quite in position. We're diving on the medevac once again. Ooh, does survive. Mine shot not quite going up. Medevac goes down. And we will shut down the Reaper. If the Reaper falls, that is all the high ground vision. Oh, we get the Phoenix! Phoenix goes down, both Phoenixes go down, and we get the pylon as well. Very successful push. Oh my god, we get 2 Stalkers. Oliveira, calm down. He resets the Phoenix count, gets the Stalkers, gets the hell out of there. Back at home, what did we lose? We lost 2 SCVs. I mean, one of them died at the start of the game, so 1 SCV went down. We do minimize our losses. Oliveira does get back home. Oh my god. And we have a 3rd CC on the way. And we're not done with our aggression, by the way. Our follow-up is going to be tank production and Banshees. Cloak Banshees are on the way. The first Banshee is already moving out. What do we have at home to defend? If we had Phoenixes, then we would be in quite a good position here. We'd be able to deal with this. But look at our army size. Look at what we have. We have 3 Stalkers in the main. The Phoenix count was reset and we have no more Phoenixes. And we're waiting for that Cloak. Cloak is done. Banshee making its way towards that natural. NightMare still no 3rd. Still no 3rd base. Do we have detection? We don't have detection. Oh my god. No observer. Inside observer's on the way as we speak. We head into the main. 2, 3, 4 probes going to be going down to depth. Say shaded across the map, but we are in position. We're ready for this. Do we wall off? We do. Wall off in time. And we get 7, 8, 9 probe kills. Where's the observer? It's just now on the way. Finally, it does arrive, but it's more than worth it. We get 11, 12 probe kills. And we're getting into our 3rd. And Oliveira, he's safe and sound again. There's no Phoenixes to harass him. There's no Blink Stalkers because it was a Phoenix opener. He cripples the economy. He's getting his own 3rd base. And he's building up an army. Stim +1 combat shields. Oliveira, he's looking quite solid here so far. The Adepts say do shade in. That should not have happened. We bust into the main. We get a full scout. And we do get some economic damage done. Very necessary damage here from NightMare. As Oliveira did fumble a little bit. We're not done. We get 7 SCVs. We get 8 SCVs. Oh my god. It's 3 Adepts. 10. 10 workers go down. And we do disrupt some of the production as well. Very nice counter damage here from NightMare. And we are getting back into this. Again, very necessary here that NightMare got that damage that he did. As otherwise he would just be falling further behind. 10 SCVs go down. NightMare now maintains a worker lead. And we're working towards Storm again. Interesting. So we're not working towards a Robotics Bay or Colossus. Storm is on the way. Oliveira is pushing now. NightMare is vulnerable. He has no splash damage. He has a shield battery. He has Nova Charge. He has a couple of charge lots. But there is potential with this push. Like, NightMare has not yet recovered. NightMare needs more time. And Oliveira is pushing in. We do have force fields. We don't mind taking a focus down. Second Immortal has arrived. And the tank does siege. It's going to be targeted down. The tank will fall. What about the Marines? What about the Bio Army? Stim is finishing up in 1 second. And with Stim, we can focus down the Immortals. The overcharge, it doesn't even matter. It's not good enough. And we have broken the 3rd base. And there's nothing left. GG gets called. And Oliveira will take the series 2-1, advancing on to the grand finals. Whew, GG. GG, well played. A very, very decisive attack there from Oliveira. He was on a very low SCV count. He was on 43 workers back at home. But he knew that he had dealt so much damage. He knew that in that moment, NightMare was vulnerable. He had 2 Immortals on the high ground. He had a handful of gateway units. Nothing else there was ready. And Oliveira takes the series. GG, well played. That was a wild series, by the way. Game 1, Game 2, and Game 3. GG, well played. My condolences to NightMare as he is going to be eliminated from the tournament. But NightMare did very well for himself. You know, I don't want to take away from NightMare. He went to the ace match against Oliveira. NightMare, he eliminated Dark from the tournament. Dark, who's one of the favorites, usually is one of the favorites for these online weeklies for tournaments, period. And he was knocked out early on by NightMare. GG, well played. Oliveira is waiting in that grand finals, waiting for the winner of our next series. Up next, we have another PvT, Creator versus Gumiho. Here we go. Will it be a mirror matchup finals or another Terran versus Protoss? We are here to find out. Let us go. But yeah, really well done here by Oliveira, especially considering that Oliveira, it's difficult because he's a world champion, so there's a lot to live up to and there's a lot of expectations from him, and Oliveira hasn't necessarily been meeting said expectations. So we've seen a bit of like a rocky aftermath after IEM, after that previous IEM win. But yeah, really nice result so far here from Oliveira to make it into those finals. And who's it going to be up against? We're here to find out. Going to be loading into Oceanborn for game 1 of Creator and Gumiho.